There are nights you lie awake, and the ceiling feels like a wall between you and heaven. You have prayed. You have believed. You have held on with everything inside you, through the loss, through the fear, through the seasons that broke you in ways you never told anyone. And yet, the silence continues. No sign, no answer, no whisper, just the sound of your own heartbeat in the darkness, wondering if anyone on the other side is listening at all. And in that silence, the most dangerous thought begins to form. Maybe he stopped caring. Maybe he moved on. Maybe after all these years of faithful waiting, you are finally, truly alone. Welcome to Lord's Quiet Whisper, where God meets you in the silence you thought meant he was gone. You are not alone in this feeling. Some of the greatest men and women of faith in all of Scripture sat in the exact same silence you are sitting in right now. David, the man God himself called a man after his own heart, wrote in Psalm 22:2 with raw and bleeding honesty, "I cry out by day, but you do not answer. By night, but I find no rest." David was not a man of weak faith. He was not someone who had given up on God. He was a man who had walked with God for decades, who had seen miracles, who had survived giants and armies and betrayal. And yet he sat in a silence so deep, it felt like abandonment. And he said so, out loud, to God, because real faith is not the absence of doubt. Real faith is bringing your doubt directly to the one you are doubting, and refusing to leave until something shifts. And God did not rebuke David for that prayer. He kept it. He preserved it. He put it in his word so that thousands of years later, on a night exactly like tonight, you would read it and know that what you are feeling right now is not weakness. It is not failure. It is not evidence that your faith has run out. It is evidence that you are still in the room, still at the table, still holding on, even when holding on feels like holding nothing at all. But here is what you need to understand about the silence of God, and this may change everything you thought you knew. In 1 Kings 19, the prophet Elijah had just witnessed one of the greatest miracles in all of biblical history. Fire had fallen from heaven at his prayer. An entire nation had turned back to God in a single afternoon. And yet within days, Elijah was running, hiding under a tree in the wilderness, telling God he had enough and wanted to die. The silence after the miracle was louder than anything that came before it. And God did not send thunder. He did not send fire. He did not send a vision or a dream or an angel with a scroll of explanation. He sent a whisper, a still, small voice, so quiet that Elijah had to stop everything, stop running, stop crying, stop explaining himself just to hear it. Because God was not in the earthquake. He was not in the wind. He was in the quiet. He was in the very silence that felt like absence. And he is in yours too. You have been interpreting his silence as rejection. But what if the silence was never rejection at all? What if the silence was the sound of God working at a level so deep, so precise, so personal to every broken piece of you that human words could not contain it? What if the very season that felt like abandonment was actually the most attended season of your entire life? Think about a surgeon. When a surgeon is doing his most careful, most critical work, the room goes quiet. No unnecessary noise, no distractions, complete focused silence, because the work being done is too important, too delicate, too precise for anything less than total concentration. And that is exactly what God has been doing in your silence. Not ignoring you, not forgetting you, operating, working at the deepest level of your soul with a precision and a care that could not happen in the noise. In Isaiah 45:3, God made a promise that should stop you completely. I will give you hidden treasures, riches stored in secret places, so that you may know that I am the Lord. Hidden treasures, secret places, things that can only be found in the dark, things that can only be discovered in the silence, the very silence you have been begging him to end. And you have been carrying something in this silent season that you have not told anyone. A fear that maybe the life you hoped for is simply not going to happen. That the marriage you prayed for, the healing you believed for, the restoration you have been standing on for years, maybe it was never coming. Maybe you misread God. Maybe you believed for something he never actually promised you. And that thought, that quiet, devastating thought, has been slowly draining the color from your faith. But I need you to hear this today with everything inside you. In Numbers 23:19, the word declares, God is not a man that he should lie. Has he spoken, and will he not fulfill it? Every single thing he has spoken over your life, every promise that felt alive in your spirit, every word that landed in your heart like it was placed there by a hand that knew exactly what it was doing. He has not forgotten a single one. Not one. The silence is not him withdrawing the promise. The silence is him preparing the ground for it. Because here's the truth about how God works that most people miss entirely. He does not just answer prayers, he builds answers. He does not just open doors, he constructs what is waiting on the other side of them. And construction takes time. It takes silence. It takes seasons where nothing appears to be happening on the surface, because everything is happening beneath it. In John 12:24, Jesus used the most powerful image to explain this. Unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it produces much grain. The seed in the ground looks dead. It looks forgotten. It looks like nothing is happening. But underneath the surface, in the silence and the darkness, it is becoming everything it was created to be. And so are you. You have been in the ground long enough to feel like you have been buried. But you were never buried. You were planted, and what God is about to bring up from this season of silence, what he has been carefully, quietly, specifically preparing in the dark, is going to be more than you asked for, more than you imagined, and more than enough to make every silent night suddenly make sense. He was never gone. He was never distant. He was never looking away. He was right there, in the silence, doing what only he can do. And in the next part of this journey, he wants to show you something that will finally answer the question you have been too afraid to ask. The question of whether he truly remembers you. Whether after all this time, after all this waiting, after all this silent, faithful holding on, you were ever truly forgotten. Because the answer, when you hear it, is going to bring you to your knees. Not in despair, but in the kind of overwhelming, tear-filled, breath-stealing gratitude that only comes when you finally understand how deeply, how personally, and how completely you have always been known.